I believe it's time we reconsider the role billionaires play in our economy and in our society. In fact, I say it's time we outlaw billionaires by placing a 100% tax on any wealth over $999,999,999. Trust me, we'll all be much better off in a world free of billionaires. Look around. The whole planet is in crisis. Europe is on the brink of collapse. The United States economy is sputtering out. Freak climate change-induced weather is becoming more and more common. Our streets are becoming breeding grounds for social instability. And all the while, there's this very small cadre of very, very wealthy individuals, billionaires, who are sucking up more and more of the wealth that used to belong to working people. Just look at these numbers. Post-World War II, all income levels in America grew together. The lowest income level, the 20% poorest Americans, actually grew at a faster rate than the top 20% of the wealthiest Americans. During this time, billionaires were few and far between in America as wealth was more evenly distributed. But since Reagan, and since a new mentality was instilled in our culture that greed is good and that super rich shouldn't be questioned or asked to sacrifice any more for their nation, then income for the top has increased rapidly while income has actually fallen for the bottom Americans. Since 1980, the top 1% have sucked up 80% of all the new wealth created in our country. And in 2010, the richest 1% of Americans received 93% of all the new income earned that year. There are now over 400 billionaires in America. In fact, today, the richest 400 Americans, all of whom are billionaires, own more wealth than the bottom 150 million Americans combined. In fact, the richest 6 members of the Sam Walton family, heirs the Walmart fortune, again, all billionaires, own more wealth than the bottom 30% of Americans combined. According to a recent study from the Federal Reserve, median net worth for middle-class families dropped by nearly 40% from 2007 to 2010. That's the equivalent of wiping out 18 years of savings for the average middle-class family. And much of that money went to the richest 400 Americans, all billionaires who collectively own $1.3 trillion worth of wealth. The issue here isn't punishing the wealthy. The issue is acknowledging that billionaires, uniquely, have sucked up so much wealth out of our economy that the rest of us are drowning. What's worse is the rest of us are working harder and harder. Productivity has steadily increased post-World War II, and it used to be that income gains increased right alongside it. But around the time of Ronald Reagan, productivity and wages began to diverge. While productivity increased, wages stagnated. That's because all the extra profits made by increased productivity were not given back to the workers like they had been all the way back to the George Washington administration, but instead, since Reagan, have been pocketed by CEOs and corporate executives. In other words, we're all working harder, but unfortunately, by no will of our own, we've been forced to give up these fruits of our labor to the elites, to the billionaires whose wealth has exploded and continues to increase year after year. And what have working people been given out of this deal with the billionaires? We've been given political corruption, as billionaires like Sheldon Adelson and the Koch brothers now proudly buy politicians and legislation to benefit their own selfish interests, like tax cuts for wealthy people, deregulation of polluting oil corporations, free trade for job outsourcers. We've been giving gigantic transnational corporations, we've been steered by billionaires that can crush the competition of small businesses and kill the American entrepreneurial spirit.